what I know something about is what Dr. Jung was saying, and I don't necessarily know it in the context of philosophers or earlier writers. And so, um, in terms of alchemy, what I can do is I can take things in and I can interpret them back out in a way that may resonate with some layman. Um, Whereas if you just plow into it directly, you may have a hard time doing that. And so I'm trying to be a facilitator. That's what Dr. Edinger was trying to do also. He considered himself a mediator between Dr. Jung's complexity and the rest of the world. And unfortunately, Dr. Edinger died in 1998, and so some of us have to pick up the reins and move forward. And fortunately, now a lot of Jungians have started to do that. I'll mention this here. This is Jung's Red Book for Our Time, Searching for Soul Under Postmodern Conditions, and this is Volume 2. This is a brilliant book. Volume 1 was also brilliant. And what this is a 3-volume series. The 3rd volume should come out this coming fall. And ultimately it will be 50 essays by Jungian analysts about Dr. Jung's oeuvre, or about the Red Book, specifically about the Red Book. And basically it tells us what a perfect uncut diamond the Red Book is, because Dr. Jung did the Red Book, and so let's imagine that from an imaginal point of view as an uncut diamond. And then he spent the rest of his life trying to cut down that diamond in a way that others could get at it. And what we have now in this book, Jung's Red Book for Our Time, is we have 50 analysts that have approached the Red Book from different points of view. So there are different facets on what the Red Book means. And it's really starting to make the Red Book shine like a diamond. I mean, it really does to me. And this morning, some of us have talked about the need for initiation among young men in the world, that we need initiation. We've lost the type of initiation that used to come at the tribal level and in various ways. Now, there are initiatory things. For example, I feel that, if you join the Marine Corps, you're going to be initiated. Okay, the Marine Corps builds men. Remember that one. And so, so that's a kind of initiation of proving that you're a man, basically. And the Masai, for example, would have taken a young man of perhaps 12 out with a spear and organized things in such a way for his initiation such that a lion would attack him and he would have to kill the lion with the spear. And that is an initiation of overcoming fear of life and becoming a man, let's say. And so one of the issues that we have in modern life is the issue of becoming a man. I mean, okay, you can get the hero's journey by watching Star Wars on a movie screen, but that's not you. That's somebody else that's having that experience. And so you can get the idea of the experience, but until you've been initiated as a man one way or another, And I don't mean in a courageous way. It can be the school of hard knocks, okay? It can be running into the realities of life in a marriage type thing, okay? That's an initiation too, for both men and women. So we need initiation. And the point I was making is that in this book, starting on page 215, there's a Jungian analyst named Kate Burns, is her name. And the title of her essay is Soul's Desire to Become New, Jung's Journey, Our Initiation. And her part of the point that she makes here, and I plan to read from this essay in the next few days and put it online, because I do have permission to read from this book, and to a limited extent. And this particular essay I found is particularly profound, but it begins with a Jung quote, which is, "Believe me, it is no teaching and no instruction that I give you. On what basis should I presume to teach you? I give you news of the way of this man, but not of your own way. My path is not your path, therefore I cannot teach you. The way is within us, but not in God's, nor in teachings, nor in laws. Within us is the way, the truth, and the life." Okay, so that's a quote from the Red Book by Dr. Jung. But anyway, then Kate Burns then gives a very, very interesting essay on the initiatory experience from a psychological point of view. And obviously that's important. I remember when there were crises about terrorist attacks in Europe last year, a couple of years back, and there was the Charlie Hebdo experience, and then there was the attack on the cabaret in Paris. And I remember, I think it was Anderson Cooper who was interviewing two older Muslim men. And one of them said something that was pretty profound to me. He said, "Our young men have no way to prove that they're a man any longer." And that's sort of what we're talking about here, isn't it? That if we don't have ways for people to make their way in society, and this comes up in young white men too in the United States, because all these we have all these school shootings and such, and sometimes they're Muslims, but sometimes they're just white Anglo-Saxon Protestants, and the question is, how do they prove that they're a man? I mean, do they have to go into the military to get through this initiatory experience? I don't know. I mean, that's a question. Anyway, I urge you to order this book, Jung's Red Book for Our Time, Searching for Soul Under Postmodern Conditions, Volume 2, and read this essay on initiation by Kate Burns. Or actually, I'm going to read it online, so you don't need to do that. But within the next week, I'm going to read part of it online, because I think it's so profound that we all need to know it. But there are many other essays in these two volumes that are already published that are also quite profound. And as I say, they show us what a diamond the Red Book was. And one can understand from Dr. Jung's point of view, since he didn't publish it in his lifetime, for him, it was an uncut diamond. And, he had hacked away at it for 40 years after the Red Book experience and produced, I don't know, probably 15 of the 20 volumes of the collected works in that time. And he attacked it from a psychiatrist and very deeply religious point of view, but there are many facets of it that he didn't see at the time, and so these Jungian analysts have now started to expose those things, and it's very powerful. Okay, so yeah, right. I'm not selling books. I don't get any commission, Gray. Jerome says, there's an excellent essay in volume 2 of Jung's Red Book for Our Time, The Receptive and the Creative, Jung's Red Book for Our Time in Light of Taoist Alchemy, by Anne Chia Yi Li. I have not gotten to that, but I'm looking forward to getting through to it soon. I'm about 2/3 of the way into the book at this point. So Thomas Dennis says, has violence been sold to modern men as a way to prove their manhood, sold both by leaders and by popular films, with the fetishization of the gun involved here also? Yeah, I think there's certainly an element of that. I mean, when I look at these weapons that people carry around in these films, I go, oh my God, who would ever carry a weapon like that? You have to just imagine what it would be like. I mean, as a Marine in Vietnam, I was going out with about 80 pounds of gear, and my food and water, 4 canteens, a flak jacket, a helmet, food for a week, etc., etc. And so that was about 80 pounds, I figured. And, the stuff that these guys apparently are wearing in movies and using is really questionable. And I don't think American troops in Iraq and Afghanistan or Syria actually dress that way most of the time. Maybe on special missions you would do so, but even then, I think the weaponry is really questionable. And so, I think that obviously there has been for many years, going back to the Caesars, the idea that, let's keep all that testosterone under control by sending the armies far away, so they're not questioning our rule, whoever it is. And, that goes back to the Caesars, so surely. Gray says, violence has been sold, but our violent nature is so much deeper. It is way down deep. Oh, yes, there's no doubt about that. And that's one of the things each one of us has to evaluate within ourselves, obviously. Thomas says, I'm thinking of the many film posters that show actors brandishing weapons. Oh, yeah. I mean, obviously that's, a phallic symbol. And guns are numinous. And so they get our attention. And I don't know, is it still selling movies? I'm starting to doubt it. I think that people are starting to call for a different type of film that's maybe a little smarter. My wife and I saw Ocean's 8 over the weekend, and it's a bit of a confection. But it's fun, and it's allowing you to do an imagination on the shadow side, with women as the leads. So it's an interesting film, but there's very few explosions. I don't even remember if there were any, and no big weapons per se. It was just smart and using your head. Thomas says, are women compelled to prove or show their womanhood? I have to wonder. Well, certainly they do. That's what Aphrodite and the Aphrodite archetype is all about, because that's part of the mating ritual at the instinctive level. And so I think that, yes, they do in a different way. They're not going to show their warrior aspect. Hopefully we are growing smarter, yet gun sales and passions around gun ownership seem to point to the attachment of that numinous weapon. The triple goddess might be involved in women's initiatory experience. Yeah, I don't think that there are real traditional initiatory things in this country. I mean, isn't being a high school teenage woman an initiation in itself? I let my wife binge on chick flicks over the weekend, and one of them had Beau Bridges in a movie. I don't even know what the name of the movie was, but it was a movie about a girl that was in some sort of reform school, and Beau Bridges was a trampoline coach and gymnastics coach. And so there's all this bickering back and forth among these teenage girls. And so, that's a kind of womanhood initiatory experience, I think. I came in this room and worked on my Jungian stuff while my wife was binging on that stuff. I couldn't take it, but...